So what we definitely know is that we have a pastor spending the Easter weekend behind bars.
Yeah, definitely. Frankly, even if we had booked a bail hearing today, there's no way that we'd be able to get him out before this long weekend. I mean, the courts are closed tomorrow. So yes, he'll be spending at least until the 12th and likely sometime after that.
Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News, and I'm here today at the Calgary Court Centre. It's Holy Thursday, and I'm here to cover a bail hearing for Calgary pastor Derek Reimer, who has been arrested and jailed for the third time in 5 weeks on charges related to his ongoing protests against all ages drag shows at municipally funded libraries.
Maybe they'll hold me in this next month or two, but stay tuned to see what happens next.
Now, to learn more about Pastor Derek Reimer's charges and his fight against the sexualization of minor children at city-owned and city-managed facilities, and to make a tax-deductible donation to offset his legal fees, please go to savepastorderek.com. Now, Pastor Derek leads Mission 7 Ministries, which works with the homeless and the vulnerable in Calgary's downtown core. And yet, thanks to his recent arrest on what CBC reports as 8 hate-related charges, the pastor will spend the holiest time in Christianity, the Easter weekend, behind bars. Reimer was first arrested and charged with mischief and causing a disturbance after he was physically removed and thrown to the ground during a protest at Calgary Seton Library during a Drag Queen Story Hour event held there. As video of the event shows, the only violence committed that day was against Pastor Derek. Now, after being granted bail on those charges, Pastor Derek was rearrested at yet another library protest, accused of breaching his conditions by protesting within 200 meters of a drag event. To be clear, Reimer was within 160 meters of the event, exhibiting a good faith attempt to comply with his conditions. Now, after being granted bail again, Reimer was rearrested April 4th. CBC reports that Pastor Derek Reimer is facing, like I said, 8 new charges relating to 2 separate protests, and that these new charges are hate-related. The mainstream media appears to be focused like a laser beam on Derek Reimer's past history of violence, which he has never hidden. However, Reimer's not accused of violence here, and in the face of violence committed against him, he didn't react violently. He was passive. Now let's hear from Derek Reimer's lawyer, Ben Allison. Take a listen.
There are new charges that Derek's facing. So today's appearance was simply the court asking, what's the plan? What are we doing? Are we scheduling a bail hearing date? Currently, we're not seeking to schedule a bail hearing date. My instructions are to pursue other avenues at this point. But that's really the purpose today, is simply to get Derek into the system and make sure his matters get addressed.
So we're back in court April 12th?
Correct. April 12th, same court. We'll be asking for an update. We'll see what will actually happen in that interim. It's a long weekend. Hopefully we'll get enough movement to start making some progress on not just this matter, but all of Derek's matters.
So what we definitely know is that we have a pastor spending the Easter weekend behind bars.
Yeah, definitely. Frankly, even if we had booked a bail hearing today, there's no way that we'd be able to get him out before this long weekend. I mean, the courts are closed tomorrow.
So what do we know about the 8 new charges?
I've got my guesses, but I haven't seen, it's called an information. It's a sworn document. That's the administrative basis of the offenses. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not comfortable saying what they are, but I keep hearing it's 8, both from Derek and the Crown and the various judicial officials we've dealt with. I know they're 8. I've got a good guess about what some of them are, but I don't know exactly what they are yet.
Now, I've seen other media reporting that these are hate-motivated charges, but you and I were talking off camera that that's a very specific thing. Can you explain to us a little bit about what that means?
Well, in terms of the headlines, I don't really know what they're referring to, but in terms of the criminal code, if a person is sentenced of any criminal act, one of the many factors a court can consider is whether or not the criminal act was motivated by hate. And that would be considered an aggravating factor. Those aren't hate crimes, that's just a factor in sentencing. So first you need to get a conviction, and then you need to address the issue at sentencing. I think that's perhaps what's being referred to. There are more specific crimes that I would call hate crimes, for which Derek has not been charged with. That I that I would say is a hate crime. But these cause disturbance, mischief, breaches, none of those are hate crimes.
And I think last time we were in court, you argued that there's a very specific exception to hate crimes legislation.
It depends on which section, if any charges is laid, but the one section that was addressed at length at the last bail hearing is, I believe it's section 319. But yes, that section's pretty specific. One of the things it requires is the consent of the Attorney General. It's a very particular, fairly new criminal act in the criminal code. That, in my view, would be more in alignment with a hate crime. But again, Derek has not been charged with that. As far as I know, no information has been sworn with that respect. So we're waiting to see if that ever happens.
It should be noted that Pastor Derek was charged after Calgary's Mayor Jyoti Gondek pressured the police to charge him in a bizarre Twitter diatribe. A wiser politician would have left their unethical political meddling in the legal system to perhaps an off-the-record phone call, but not Gondek. And Mayor Gondek and her progressive allies on council have since brought in a new bylaw which restricts protests against drag queen story hours, what the law calls specified protests. Violators can face up to a year in jail and a $10,000 fine, a law that is surely unconstitutional, but still one the provincial socialist NDP in Ontario want to replicate there. Rebel News will be back in court on April 12th to cover the next hearing for Pastor Derek Reimer. To stay informed and to support his ballooning legal costs as he fights for the right to protest how the government is allocating municipally funded facilities, please visit savepastorderek.com. In Calgary, for Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To stay up to date with the legal proceedings of Pastor Derek Reimer as he fights for the right to protest against drag queen story hours here in Calgary and to make a tax-deductible donation to offset his ballooning legal costs, please visit savepastorderek.com.